can be. This is someone was making a comment in the last talk to talk about the leading the world's first human challenge study for COVID-19. So imperialac.uk, Imperial College, in Feb 2021, this is 22, it was announced that the UK would be the first country in the world to carry out a human infection study, also known as human challenge study, with SARS-CoV-2, the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. So during the study, young healthy volunteers will be deliberately infected with the virus so that researchers can learn more about the infection and test new vaccines and treatment in the future. So that is a study, and I believe that they have started that study. So if you like, I can work with, they are here. So let's just very quickly look at them. So this is Feb 2022. Let's just quickly look at the results of this study. This is exciting and dangerous and kudos and more power to these children who volunteered. So 36 volunteers aged 18 to 29 years without evidence of previous infection or vaccination were inoculated with the TCID 50 of 10 raised of the wild. So they were given virus, SARS-CoV-2, intranasally. 2 participants were excluded from per protocol analysis due to seroconversion between screening and inoculation. So by the time they screened them and said, all right, your time tomorrow, let's say, to get it, they had become seropositive, so probably they were exposed. 18 became infected. So other 2 just became positive, seropositive, developed antibodies. 18, 53% became infected with viral load rising steeply and peaking at 5 days post inoculation. This is fascinating and scary. Virus was first detected in the throat but rose to significant higher levels in the nose, peaking at 8.86 log copies per milliliter median levels. This so started in the throat, they gave it in the nose, went to throat, replicated there, and then ascended back in the nose. Viable virus was recoverable from the nose up to 10 days post inoculation on average. There were no serious adverse events. Mild to moderate symptoms were reported by 89% of infected individuals, beginning 2 to 4 days post inoculation. So within 2 to 4 days. So here everything was controlled. So you can see the time the symptoms start is the disease. Before that is the infection, and that is incubation time. So 2 to 4 days. Anosmia, dysnosmia developed more gradually in 12 participants. So this seems like earlier variants. No quantitative correlation was noted between virus load and symptoms. So it didn't matter how much the load, or increasing the load did not increase or change the symptoms. With high virus loads, even in asymptomatic infection, followed by the development of serum spike-specific and neutralizing antibodies. However, lateral flow results were strongly associated with viable virus, and modeling showed that twice-weekly rapid test could diagnose infection before 70 to 80% of viable virus has been generated. That's such an interesting thing. So if somebody is getting tested twice a week, then before they have 70 to 80% of the load developed, they would know. Thus, in the first SARS-CoV-2 human challenge study, no serious safety signals were detected, and the detailed characteristics of early infection and their public health implications were shown. Now, what did they use? That is the interesting part. Did they give them any medicines? Let's see. So 24-hour medical monitoring, access to clinical support, Admission before volunteers were screened for coincidental respiratory infections. Um, as per protocol, these first 10 challenged participants were assigned to receive preemptive remdesivir once two consecutive 12-hourly nose or throat swabs showed quantifiable SARS-CoV-2 detection by PCR. So they were given remdesivir, 10 of them, with the aim of mitigating any unexpected risk of progression to more severe disease. So then preemptive remdesivir was deemed unnecessary and target recruitment of a further 30 individuals under the same condition, but without remdesivir was advised. So remdesivir didn't really work. A further sentinel cohort of 3 individuals was then challenged with no preemptive remdesivir given, prophylactic. Maybe they should have tried ivermectin too. This was followed by 3 more groups of 7, 7, and 9 individuals following exclusion of 4 volunteers shortly before virus inoculation due to detection of other respiratory viruses. Once preemptive remdesivir was no longer used, clinical severity criteria were defined. Okay. Then look at this. Triggering of the rescue monoclonal antibody, they defined that, hey, if now this happens, give monoclonal antibody, but no such treatment was ultimately required. Excellent. Participants were quarantined for at least 14 days post inoculation and until they met virological discharge criteria, with planned follow up for 1 year to assess the prolonged symptoms, including smell disturbances and neurological dysfunction. Very interesting. So they were all inoculated by intranasal drops. Then 53% subsequently developed PCR confirmed infection. 53%. What happened to the rest? This infection rate met the protocol specific target of 50 to 70%, and they were therefore no further dose escalation. Very interesting. So infected, negative, uninfected, and this. So there were total 36. Infected, seronegative 18. Uninfected, seronegative 16. Uninfected, seropositive 2. Isn't that fun? That so they infected them 36, or they exposed 36. 18 became infected. 16 became not infected. That means their innate arm worked. So they never developed seronegativity or positivity. So innate arm worked or something else. And then 2 were uninfected and they were seropositive. That's beautiful. Symptoms, I think we all know the symptoms. Fever, C-reactive protein increased, antibody titers. In 16 people, there were no antibodies. So this proves that there can be people in the household who can work with the patient and still not develop anything, not even test positive. Spike specific IgG titers. Adverse events, nothing. Smell disturbance, 12,000. Low white cell count, 1. Low lymphocyte count, 9,3. Interesting. In the 18 infected individuals, viral shedding by qPCR became quantifiable in throat swab from 40 hours post inoculation, significantly earlier than in the nose. So they started shedding from the throat. How early? 2.4 days, about 2.4 days. So somebody who gets infected would become positive in 40 hours and they would start shedding before the nose has it. Very interesting. Do I still have you, or am I just talking with myself? This is a good study. It's kind of a scary study as well. Uh, I'm sure that they had to do a lot of ethical discussions around this one. Very interesting. If you like, I can then do this separately with more visuals. Of the first 10 participants prospectively assigned to receive preemptive remdesivir, 6 became infected. No apparent difference was seen in VL viral load by qPCR. So remdesivir was given prophylactically and they were infected. And viral load was 6 became infected and viral load was the same with or without remdesivir. While there was an apparent trend towards lower mean nasal virus load during the treatment period and delayed in the 6 remdesivir individual, that was not observed in the throat. So nasal load may be reduced but not throat, primarily driven by one individual and was not statistically significant. Okay. So, with no significant difference between remdesivir treated and untreated participants, so then that study that is happening nowadays, remdesivir trial as prophylaxis, this at least small study here doesn't show any benefit. Following SARS-CoV-2 human challenge, viral shedding begins within 2 days of the exposure, rapidly reaching high levels with viable virus detectable up to 12 days post inoculation, and significantly higher level in the nose and throat despite its later onset. So it starts in the throat, goes to nose, but nose has a higher load. This is a beautiful study from a mechanism point of view. Denise says that why don't we then always test with the throat? So absolutely, and they said that if you test twice a week, you will know it before 70 to 80% of the load is developed. And Bal says, I think Luffy has a girlfriend. Maybe he was trying to hide in the bushes from us to go meet her. So Colin says, I must be one of those people who doesn't get it since I test regularly 6 hours ago negative and have never tested positive. I use ivermectin though, but no vaccine. Interesting that they're saying that some people didn't become positive at all. They didn't even become infected. This is a interesting study. This is a study to show what happens when the infection starts. Before this study, everything is more of a observation, thinking, hypothesis, and here we have beat by beat behavior of the virus in our body. Although they are youngsters, so their behavior and body is different from others, but still it's great and thanks to these youngsters. So Guy says CBD has demonstrated to reduce our absolutely they have. And if you like, we can discuss that too. So before we go to other questions, I want to share one more thing, and that is the vaccine by military. It is such an interesting idea they have. And by the way, I think in CDC's latest uh, counts, they have started counting previously infected. So, and I also wanted to share this. Let's look at the military vaccine first. Let's see where it is. So, poor Novavax. It was supposed to send some billions of doses, 2 billion COVID 19 shots. It planned to send around the world in 2020 and has delayed first quarter shipment in Europe and lower income countries such as Philippines. Novavax said it has completed delivery of around 10 million vaccine doses to Indonesia, and the shipment of several million shots arrived in Australia and New Zealand on Monday. The company declined to comment on the exact number of deliveries it has made. So their share fell by 10%.